intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler.
Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
Tatum drives down and throws it down. Wow!
To throw, rainbows it down the right side for Kyle Pitts. He's got it. He's there. Touchdown! Oh my!
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Bits podcast with Moko, here to talk about all things Florida Gators football and Boston Celtics. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsBitsPod to get updates on when I upload. I will also be tweeting out live takes and reactions of anything that is going on during the week. And if you're on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. It'd be much appreciated to get the content, get that podcast out there, more people's ears. And yeah, let's get on to it. There's a lot of things to talk about on the Florida side, mainly the schedule that got released last Wednesday, I think the day before I uploaded the last podcast. But we also had the Arik Gilbert transfer to talk about. Two big things, and there's also another last thing I'll say for the end. But for right now, that's all you got to know. First thing about the schedule, I'm just going to do a little raw take on it. I'm just going to read through it and give you my opinions on it, just because I've had about a week to look at it and just see what was up. So let's just quickly read it off. So we start at home. First game against Florida Atlantic out of conference division game, which will be really good to warm up the season. With all the new changes and all that on offense and defense. So that'll be a great game. And then we have USF away at Tampa, which will be great for, I think, recruiting. Just to quickly mention that. Then we have Alabama, another rematch, SEC championship rematch, week 3 of the season, which is going to be crazy to have a game like that early in the schedule. Then we got Tennessee, and then Kentucky, and then Vanderbilt right after. So that'll be a decent slate of games, interconference games, at least SEC's conference games, and then we go straight to go to the West when we play LSU, then Georgia. LSU will be at Louisiana, and then Georgia will be, of course, the neutral site in Jacksonville. Right after Georgia, we got South Carolina away in Columbia, and then we got Samford at home, another out-of-conference game at home, which is going to be great. Then we got Missouri away, and then we end with Florida State at home, as usual, which is going to be really fun to have that again, since last season we only had SEC conference games. So it'll be nice having these out-of-state conference games again. And it's kind of funny, first thing I noticed that we have 3 out-of-conference games in the state of Florida. So we got Florida Atlantic, of course, and then we got South Florida and Tampa, and then we got Florida State at home, which is going to be great. And I think all those three games are going to be really help bolster our recruiting and our repertoire in Florida. So that's going to really help, especially the Tampa game at South Florida. Because, I think at USF is competing with Florida on recruits, especially the 3 and 4 stars that we try to recruit out of Florida in that area. And I think definitely the hire, Wellesley McGriff, is definitely going to help also bolster our recruiting in that area, because he did come from Jeff Scott's staff in USF. So that's going to be really great. Florida Atlantic, I think it'll be an easy game as long as, Todd Grantham and Dan Mullen get their act together by week 1. And then we got Florida State. I don't expect them to be great. They're still trying to figure stuff out with Mike Norvell, and I think if they get that stuff figured out, they could be a challenge every year. But for right now, I don't think we need to worry about them too much. I think it's just a game to just, it's a rivalry game, so just, it's going to be, a lot of trash talking, a lot of, which team is better. Currently, I think it's Florida. Before Dan Mullen came, it definitely was Florida State. But I think with Dan Mullen here, we got a great, couple of years to come when he stays in Florida over Florida State. The main thing I want to talk about next is the Alabama game, which is going to be insane because both teams have lost a lot of talent to the draft last season, and it's going to be a whole new set of guys versus a whole new set of guys on the Alabama side and on the Florida side. And I think it'll just be based on coaching now. I think and developing, because I feel since we have a full spring practice and we got a spring game and we got summer, it'll give the guys plenty of time to get their act together, get the plays drawn up for the guys that need to be starting next year, especially Emory Jones, because his playbook is going to be really different compared to what we had with Kyle Trask. So on offense, that'll be fine. Defense, there's a lot of question marks. We had our new hires, which is okay. I thought they were good from on paper, but we'll see how they end up developing these guys for next season against Alabama. And then we got Tennessee, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. That's, average games. I think the one thing that really stuck out to me with the schedule is that our 2 hardest games on the schedule, Alabama and Georgia, we have Tennessee and South Carolina right after. And the thing it's crazy about that, because both teams have just went through a new hire process. So we got Shane Beamer at South Carolina, and we got Josh Heupel at Tennessee. So, it's a little bit of a wild card game because we don't know how these guys are going to react or how these guys are going to play at their respective schools. Just because it's their first year, we don't know what they're going to implement. We don't know what they're going to try to do with the talent they have because a lot of talent is leaving Tennessee. I think South Carolina is doing a lot better in keeping the talent they had from the Will Muschamp era and also recruiting guys under Shane Beamer. But I actually really don't know, and it could be a hiccup game for Florida if they don't take that seriously after an intense game between Alabama and Georgia. If we don't keep the train going, and we start to slow down right after our tough games, like we did last year in 2020, that could really end up being like 2 losses if we really, really messed up somehow. We could have 2 losses on the board right after potentially 2 other losses or 2 wins depending on how we do against Georgia and Alabama, which is really scary. But again, they're wild card games. I don't know what Josh Heupel and Shane Beamer are going to do, but we'll see when the first couple games come out. We'll see how they take their team, what direction they take their team, how they're going to perform. With a full spring and a summer with their guys. So that was the main thing. Of course, we got our conference games at Sanford as well. It should be an easy win. Kentucky. Mike Stoops is doing a great job there. It's another game that if you don't take it seriously, you will get thrown around by Kentucky. So as long as we take these games seriously, all of them, as we're playing like an Alabama type game, we should be fine. Our only 2 losses or 3 losses really should be from Alabama, LSU, and Georgia, and LSU especially, considering that all that talent they got. They were like a top 5 recruiting class in 2021, and we're playing away. We're playing in Death Valley, which is going to be the scariest part. That we're not home for that game, and with all the stuff that Ed Orgeron's done. And, especially with the new hires, they got rid of Bo Pelini, and it's I think that could turn that program around from what they did last year. Even though they still beat us, they could potentially beat us again. You know what? My friend, funny enough, actually called me after that game, and he told me LSU had Florida's number every single year, and I can see that now after looking back at every game except for 2018 when we had a really good defense that year and Felipe was not injured. So that was the only year we really had against LSU. 2019, LSU beat us. 2020, LSU. 2019, of course, but yeah, 2020 was the biggest surprise on the schedule I've ever seen. I think that was like the start of the downfall of the season, was that LSU loss. We didn't take that seriously. Then I think that translates to the Alabama loss. But that's in the past. We should focus on the future, which is the schedule, and see what we could do about this 2021 season with the guys we recruited under Dan Mullen. And, see how they mesh together and also how Dan Mullen can do with his own guys, because most of the guys that we started were veterans from the McElwain era. And, we don't know what these guys can do with their own guys. So maybe Tom Grantham's way better than we thought, because maybe he's recruiting his own guys. Maybe he has time to implement the system. So it could work. It could work with, instead of playing veterans, he could have a lot of new guys that he likes, that he could, put into the system. And maybe our defense is a lot better next year than it is this year. You could be optimistic about it. Our history says otherwise with Todd Grantham, but I say we'd be optimistic about it. He's got a full offseason to do it, and if he doesn't perform, I think that's when the hot seat gets real hot, like the fire goes up to 200 degrees. I think that's going to be a problem for his, at least his job security in the future, because we can't just be firing assistants left and right and saying that's the problem when Todd Grantham probably is the head man that needs to be looked at in the future. But yeah, anything else on the schedule didn't really seem too crazy. I mean, Missouri away, if they're continuing with their streak like they did last season, 2020, they also could be another hiccup game like Kentucky, because we're playing both of those teams away. So Missouri should be another game. As long as we take it seriously, we should be fine. We don't have that high-powered offense, but I think Dan Mullen, with whoever they got and whatever talent they get, I think he'll do fine. So I'm going to transition on to the Arik Gilbert transfer. I mean, I think the schedule overall, I think it's a very good schedule. I think it'll show what Dan Mullen can do with his own guys and his own system, and not with veterans and stuff. So I think that'll be really good. So moving on to the Arik Gilbert transfer, he transferred from LSU. He's apparently the number 5 tight end in the nation, something crazy like that. He's apparently one of the top guys. You expected him to stay at LSU just because Ed Orgeron probably was going to try to convince him to stay with fixing himself up for 2021. But he transferred to Florida, and I think the main reason why he transferred to Florida is just because how he saw Kyle Pitts from last year, his performance and how he developed Kyle Pitts since his first year at Florida. And I think he sees that as potentially his way to become the next Kyle Pitts, which is possible. I mean, if you look at his stats last year, he had 35 passes for 369 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 8 games. And to think that's with Miles Brennan, TJ, I forgot his other name, but they were rotating quarterbacks left and right, and I just got so lost with what LSU was doing. But imagine if Arik Gilbert had a consistent one quarterback that he was passing to on practice every single day, building that chemistry. I think that could be a really good benefit to have Arik Gilbert with Emory Jones or an Anthony Richardson. That'd be really good. And that was only his freshman year. He caught for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns his freshman year. So it can only go up from here as long as Dan Mullen and the tight end room develops him really well. And speaking of the tight end room, surprisingly, the 2021 tight end room is going to be really packed. We got Kamori Gamble and Keon Zipper from last year. Gamble, of course, is a senior, and Zipper as a junior. I think they're going to definitely be that veteran, leadership in that room. I think there'll be also guys mentoring Arik Gilbert. And I think the tight end room could really mesh together. We could run two tight end sets. Run Gamble, Arik Gilbert, Gamble, Zipper, and those could be our big guys out on the flats or wherever Dan Mullen decides to do with the tight ends this year. But not so much. We have Jonathan Oden, Gage Wilcox, and Nick Exelin. I think Elksness from the 2021 signing class, which are also another guys. Probably gonna have to take some time to develop, especially since Arik Gilbert's transferring from LSU. I think they're gonna definitely take more minutes away and more practice reps away from those guys. But I feel like there's a lot of guys that could develop a lot of younger guys, and then we have our veteran guys in the tight end room that are really either mentor or get even their draft status, like a draft capital higher for if they want to get drafted or if they want to stay a couple of years as a graduate, that works too. But yeah, I feel confident. That Arik Gilbert transfer. He probably would have ended up at Alabama if he wanted to transfer out. But thank God we had we have that resume of Kyle Pitts, and that would really convince Arik Gilbert is like, oh, Florida is actually a good option for a tight end compared to the traditional Alabama where they develop everybody and they're on 25/7 a week, and they can just go and make everybody great and make everybody a first rounder basically. But I think that it showed last year that Florida can develop guys, and especially on the offensive side with Dan Mullen, that it's a really good program to go to if you're an offensive guy who wants to show off his skills, maybe not take some time to develop, but maybe get some starting reps as a freshman. I think Florida is the spot to go with especially Arik Gilbert and all those other guys. And the last thing that really I wanted to talk about that was really great news, because I'm a big fan of it. I play a lot of sports video games, but the NCAA or EA Sports announced that they're going to bring back NCAA football to Xbox and the PC and all that stuff for video games, and that's great because we haven't had a NCAA game since 2014. So that would be really fun to have that back. I think though with the combination of name, image, and likeness and all that, really help propel that game to back to relevancy. So the players don't get screwed over by the game and whatnot. I don't know what side you're on, but I fully support the name, image, and likeness of the players. They should be able to market themselves and do whatever they need to do, because you should never use their name for whatever. They should be able to build their own brand, and then when they go to the NFL, they can keep building that. Become like a household name. It could be like a Travis Kelce or a Patrick Mahomes. You can keep doing that. You can start at your college days and then build it up in the NFL if you wanted to do that. But yeah, I think this is gonna be really fun. I can't wait for that game to come out because I haven't had a new game since 2014. I've loved that game, playing it on the 360. But yeah, this is really hype news that I'll be able to play as a Florida Gator on Xbox again. We had Madden's college route thing, college story line thing. They added Florida to the Madden 20 game. I don't know about Madden 21. I didn't really play that game. But yeah, I mean, Madden did a great job. With the college stuff, but I feel like there's not enough time to do college because mainly it's an NFL game. But NCAA, I think, will be great. Hopefully, they'll bring back Dynasty mode where you'll be able to recruit guys, play over 10 plus years, and build a dynasty out of whatever program you want. But that'll be a really fun thing. But yeah, overall, Florida's got. I feel confident. Especially that Arik Gilbert transfer really bolstered my confidence for next season. I trust that Dan Mullen's going to do really good with the quarterbacks, and then we have a loaded running back room as well with DeMarcus Bowman, Lorenzo Lingard, and I think Pierce and Davis are back, and almost have Naquan Wright. So not to mention we have our loaded that. I think the wide receiver core is going to be probably our weaker compared to most years. We've still got Copeland, Whitehead. I don't have these. I don't know these guys off the top of my head because most of the guys I played wide receiver last year were seniors and older guys that went to the draft. So, Kadarius Toney, Grimes, Tre'Davion Grimes. I think Trayvon Grimes. My bad, Trayvon Grimes. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot to unpack for next year. And I think with the full spring, hopefully we'll see at the spring game. How these guys are developing, and yeah, we'll see. But yeah, for the Florida side, that is it on the next Celtics part bit, which is gonna be right after this. We're gonna be talking about the Lakers and the Spurs. The games the Celtics play, and then we're also gonna be talking about potentially a hot take on Kemba Walker. So stick around for that. Otherwise, on the Florida side, I will see y'all next week. Peace. And we're back. All right, boys. I got the whole squad back together again. Got Reed, got James. We're going to roll right into it because we got a lot to talk about today. So the first thing, we're going to talk about the Spurs game real quick. So quickly, the box score for that was 106 to 110 Spurs. And the one thing I'm going to first mention about that game is that every starter had double-digit points. LaMarcus Aldridge, Keon Johnson or Keldon Johnson, DeMar DeRozan, everybody got double digits. It was a crazy game. I was watching it, and LaMarcus Aldridge was completely bullying everybody in the paint.
Big facts.
Which is fair. He's LaMarcus Aldridge. You can't count him out, even though he's like an old guy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just talking about the double digits, like everyone, the starter had double digits, including Patty Mills, who was on the bench too. I mean, like, what do you guys think of that, like, firsthand when I mentioned that? I'm going to start with James. Yeah. What do you think of that, James?
I would say that, it was definitely a tough matchup because, the Celtics lacked in the second quarter, especially when it came to, scoring. And, they only had 17 points in the second quarter, which in Brad Stevens' mind should be unacceptable, which is why they bounced back in the third and got nearly 40 points. But, that the second quarter killed them. They allowed 36 from the Spurs, and that their offense was just running at that point, and then they carried that through within the third quarter and the fourth quarter. Just the Celtics ended up doing better in the third than they did in the second, which I think was a good improvement and a good change around from halftime. But a lot of the Spurs players played really well, and I think that which we'll talk about later. But I think that Kemba Walker needed to be a lot more apparent, even though he had also scored 14 points.
Yeah, definitely the Spurs just had a really good game. Just looking at it right now, they shot 56% from the field for the whole game as a team, which is crazy in and of itself. Like James, I think you said it, or Makoto, you said LaMarcus Aldridge had a good game. He was just bullying people in the paint. He shot 50% from three. Mm-hmm. So, really the Spurs, they definitely had a good game, So I think that a lot of it falls on the Celtics for sure, especially, like Kemba Walker, we'll talk about that more so. But I think a lot of it was just the Spurs, where they just had a really good game.
Yeah, that's fair. And it's just funny. It's just watching the game because I felt like that was an easy game. It looked like we should have won that, fair, at least by
Definitely.
5-10 points, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It just surprised me because that's stat line, of course, that 6 of their players had double digits, but also another stat line that really got me kind of triggered is that their team average, the Spurs team average 3-point percentage was 28%. But the thing that stuck out to me the most is DeMar DeRozan was 100% from the 3-point line, and you know how DeMar DeRozan is. Yep. Reed, what do you think of that? DeMar DeRozan's 100% from 3-point.
He went 2 for 2 from 3, which is, that's solid, of course. He scored 21 points. He went 7 for 8 from the field for the rest of the game. So obviously he was shooting the ball just too well, So definitely he had a big game, and he definitely helped them lead it. He also picked up 5 rebounds and 7 assists, So he filled up the stat sheet that night for sure.
He was on his way to a triple-double, and I think that it was if he had more time, he would have been able to do it. But it's a shame that the Celtics defense wasn't able to contain him like they normally do when they match up against the Spurs. I think that DeMar DeRozan's a real talent and a real threat that people sometimes sleep on and forget how good he can be, and especially how good he used to be on Toronto. And I think that a lot of people start sleeping on him now because he doesn't have the same type of role that he did on the.
Well, he's getting old too.
He's getting older. Yeah, I mean, like,
so of course people are gonna sleep on him.
Exactly. So like with the factor of his age and the fact that he's on a different team, even though he's been on this team for what 2-3 years now.
Yeah, he's been there for a bit.
Yeah, he can definitely still show up when he wants to, and I think that the night that he played the Celtics, that he turned up that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I might have mentioned this last time also about the Celtics game, but they got to do a better job of taking away options, because Spurs had 6 players in double digits. You got to take something away, You got to be able to lock someone down. I'd rather have LaMarcus Aldridge get 20 points and everyone else get single digits or like around 15 or something like that, but we had 2 players scoring 20 points, 18, 14. So yeah, they just got to do a better job of taking away options.
It's funny enough you mentioned that because I was about to say that exact same, wording and everything because
I'd
rather lose from LaMarcus Aldridge scoring 40 and the rest of the guys scoring 5 than all the team scoring 15 plus, and like it just it looked like there's no way to contain any of them. So if the one guy got contained, the other guy would pop off. So like I don't know, it didn't look like it was hard, but also the DeMar DeRozan thing, going back to that, it just surprised me because also this, like during the season, like this whole season, he's been scoring 37% from the 3-point line this season, which is like his highest in his whole career.
Yeah, he's never been a good 3-ball shooter.
This is why this was like surprising. Even though he only shot the 3 twice, it still surprised me seeing 37% next to his career average. And if you, James, you have anything to add to that?
To add real quick, I know I bring it up almost every time that we have this podcast, but I mean, if you look at the Celtics stat sheet, Robert Williams played 13 minutes and had 7 rebounds with 6 points and 1 assist, while Daniel Tice played 12 minutes. Granted that he was also the starter and had 1 rebound and 5 points, which in my opinion is just depressing.
Hey, Danny, he also went 1 for 1 from 3. All right, let's not forget about about Daniel Tice, the sharpshooter.
I mean, you can't. I'm not saying I don't like to hate on Daniel Tice because he is a solid player and he's a really good offensive player for the Celtics as a center. Mm-hmm. But that game he did not show up, and I think
and he's not a defensive option for them.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, it's funny enough you mentioned Robert Williams. I was just looking at his offensive defensive ratings. Robert Williams' offensive rating, which is 163, which is really good, and his defense rating is 103, which is also really good. And this is also just in his base numbers. I don't know his per 36 numbers, but they're probably way higher just based on his efficiency already.
I mean, his efficiency is. I was just about to say that. 13 minutes, 6 points, how many? 7 boards. So I mean, come on. Brad Stevens has got to put this man on the floor more.
And the thing that I love about him so much is that even though he isn't getting a lot of run, with the minutes that he's getting, he's been staying relatively consistent, which I love about him, and that's one of the main reasons why I believe that he should move up to the starting position.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. We've been preaching it since day one, James. And I'm going to transition to the Lakers game because unless you guys have any other comments about the Spurs game, I'm going to move on. So do you guys have any last comments about the Spurs game?
Nothing from me, other than the fact that Jeff T, the Celtics bench also needed to show up more. All right, Jeff Teague went 0 for 3 from the field. So I mean, he had 8 minutes, which is not a lot of time, but I mean, still, you gotta come out to play, especially a veteran like him.
I think Semi Ojeley's defense could have definitely helped a lot more, but with the time that he had, I can kind of understand it, but to a certain extent, you kind of have to also be able to put yourself out there on the court when you get in those minutes.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to transition. Funny enough, with the Lakers game, talking about Rob Williams and Semi Ojeley first, and since we were all there to watch it together, so we can COVID safe and everything, if that matters. But yeah, COVID safe. We were all together. But yeah, we watched it, and I'm just gonna comment first thing about Semi Ojeley. He kept LeBron occupied when he was guarding him. Like he wasn't just definitely laying off.
Oh yeah.
Like he actually did a decent job on defense, and that was crazy. And also Robert Williams, his defensive rating that game for the Lakers game was 86. which means like you saw him like
Well, dude, we saw
AD. He was bodying AD and blocking him.
He
like,
got
what the
2
hell?
blocks in like 5 seconds. I mean, that was crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so just to start about the Lakers game, the score was like 1 point difference, and it was a well fought game, and I really love that we actually did a good job of locking down AD. I think that was the more important thing because LeBron was pretty much free. I think like most of the game, it looked like even though Ojale tried, Tatum had his moments with them, so they did pretty good at locking down the stars. I would say relatively because I think AD's way more of I think in my opinion he's way more of a threat than LeBron is. You guys can put your opinion on that, but I think AD is probably the person you want to lock up over LeBron. James, what do you think of that?
I would totally agree with that. I mean, personally, like, I'm not a LeBron hater in any regard, but I do believe that, his age is starting to catch up with him. He's starting to do a lot of different, more specific jobs for the team than he has been used to in most of his career because he's had to lead the team and pretty much do almost nearly everything on the court. Now with the help of AD, he can lay back on the perimeter and shoot threes and be a facilitator and pass down low. Like, I think that AD is the true threat of the Lakers as of right now, and he's going to be for a while now. So that is the guy that you need to focus on.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say pretty much something exactly like that. LeBron is he's getting more assists now. He's shooting the 3 ball more, and that's because AD is their main option for offense for the most part. So they definitely need to lock down, or they need to press harder on AD, because I'd rather have LeBron James drop 30 points and 1 assist as opposed to dropping 30 points and 20 assists. You know what I mean? Like they need to take away an option. Like I said last time, same thing with the Spurs. And I think I said it last time I was here as well. They just got to take away an option. And I think, they definitely did a good job with that. I mean, LeBron shot 7 for 17 from the field, 4 for 11 from 3. So he wasn't having a great night, but they definitely, I mean, he scored 21 points. So he still had a good night, but they definitely need to focus on AD more. He's clearly the bigger threat.
And if you look at the team comparison stats, realistically on paper, the Celtics should have won the game. I mean, they weren't far off with any stat relatively. The thing that hurt the Celtics the most was offensive rebounds. The Lakers had 13 total in the game, and the Celtics had 9, which isn't even that far off. So, like, the fact that both teams were playing nearly identical to each other proves that that both teams are beatable from both perspectives. And if the Celtics want to be able to beat the Lakers and match up like this to them, they got to be able to close out in the fourth quarter, which is exactly what happened when the Lakers scored 25 compared to the Celtics 17. I mean, you got to be able to close out the game, and you can't always rely just on your top guys and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to put those games away. The whole team needs to come together and have that chemistry and be able to facilitate on the rest of the game in crunch time.
Yeah,
they definitely need to work on closing out.
Yeah, funny enough, when you were talking about stat lines being real close, like I've looked at every single stat like very closely, like before this, and every stat you can look at is pretty comparable on both sides. Like I can give you one example. Is the true shooting percentage on the Celtics was 54% and the Lakers was 52%. The rebounds were comparable. The points, of course, were like 1 point difference. The offensive defensive ratings, which is one thing I love to look at, the Lakers had a 104, which means the Boston Celtics defensive rating was 104, and then the Lakers defensive rating is 103, which is the Celtics offensive is 103, which means on paper they're offensively and defensively they're playing pretty much similar. They're bodying each other, playing good offense, defense, etc. Which says a lot with their stats being very similar. Like there's no stat that like is like skewed like on both sides. Like everything looks pretty much neck and neck with each other. There's nothing I could see that was like, oh, this was the deciding factor of the game. No, they were both really good teams. They played well. I think the only thing is like just mental stuff with the Celtics. Just as James said, the fourth quarter closing out was the only thing that I could really
and it obviously didn't help that Marcus Smart had to leave in the second quarter. I think it was.
I think it was third quarter.
third quarter, whatever. He left before the end of the game, obviously, so that definitely didn't help them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all these stats are super comparable. I mean, the Celtics shot on paper their field goal percentage was better than the Lakers. They made 3 more field goals and shot about 4% better from the field. Their free throws, like really everything was super identical. So like James said, on paper, the Celtics really should have won this game.
Oh,
And
quick thing, James. Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So Reed, do you know what true shooting percentage is?
Sort of.
So basically, it accounts for their field goal, their 3-point, their free throw, and also their attempt rates. So like if you look at the field goals, it is comparable. That's why I always throw out true shooting percentage, because that just accounts for everything. And so yeah, if I ever throw out true shooting, it just it kind of just sums up everything when I just throw it out
I got
there.
you.
Yeah. So James, you can continue.
And I was just going to add to Reed proving why the Celtics should have won that game. The big stat that shows that to me is points in the paint.
I was just looking at that one.
Yeah, the Lakers had 40 points in the paint compared to the Celtics have 60 points in the paint. That should be completely a major factor as to why the Celtics should have won this game. They were dominating the paint on the Lakers defense,
especially since the Lakers are such a paint-heavy team.
Exactly.
You know, AD loves going into the paint, so yeah, that's definitely it. Yeah, Trez also.
You got big shot blockers down low, and they allowed 60 points in the paint. That should have easily been a major factor for the Celtics to rush in on the paint and get more points and be able to finish out that game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this game, there's a lot. I mean, I feel like it was a lot of stuff, just like intrinsic stuff that really separated this game, because you could look at numbers all day and you can say any data analytic guy would be like, yeah, this game should have been a tie, but I think if you watch the game,
it almost was. I mean, they only won by 1.
Yes, it almost was. And I'm going to talk about actually, let's transition to the Kemba thing. You guys watched the last 5 seconds of that game, and Kemba took that contested mid-range shot, even though
an interesting shot.
And I was arguing, Brandon Brown was open on the corner, but James was saying he couldn't have made that pass in time. But yeah, there was options. There was options available, and plus Tatum was in the back in the half court, not helping out with the last.
He was walking. He was walking.
Yeah. He was walking with LeBron. I'm like,
he's walking.
I think Tatum is our best guy for this kind of clutch shots. I think him and Brown are the best options for last.
And they've proven that. They've proven that.
Yes.
That they can close it out in clutch time. Jason Tatum has proven time and time again that he can hit those clutch shots.
Yeah, and Tatum, looking at his stats, I mean, he almost had a double-double. I mean, he had almost had a 30-point double-double. I mean, there shouldn't have been a reason why they shouldn't have passed to him to take the last shot of the quarter. I mean, it didn't make sense to me why they wanted Kemba to shoot that. And to a certain extent, I understand that he had the whole left side that open to him, but realistically, 4 seconds left, dish it down low, try and get an alley-oop, do something that will get you a more open look than the shot that he took.
I would have been happy if Kemba took a 3 even, other than, that contested mid-range shot was just not a good shot at all.
Yeah, and I mean, to add to that, he was open on the 3 to take the 3. So
exactly. He drove right in. I don't remember exactly who was defending him on that play, but he drove right into him.
They didn't need to take a 3, but they could have easily taken the wide open shot. And in my opinion, like Reed's saying, I would have preferred the wide open shot than get a closer mid range that is contested.
Also, can we give some props to Daniel Tice for that last second effort agast AD?
Dude,
he was close. He was real close.
And Tice had a really good game. He bounced back after the extreme shitter that he had against the Spurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, I think, 2 for 3 from 3. He's a sharpshooter out there.
Dude, looking like Al Horford stats kind of deal, which is what the Celtics really do need. I wish we had an Al Horford type, a really good defensive guy who could shoot threes.
Prime Al Horford
would be great. But yeah, Tice I think is a really good serviceable guy. But as we've been saying, Robert Williams is there. Grant Williams is also there. Funny, if we want to put Taco there, we could, but I don't think he can compare to AD and stuff.
What are you
saying? No shot.
the giraffe goat. But yeah, I'm actually gonna go back to the Kemba thing. I actually wanted to talk like a little like quick segment on Kemba because this game really opened my eyes. Like, and also last game with the Spurs, like his efficiency in the past 4 games has all been negative. His plus minus efficiency has all been negative, which means like overall his overall game has been a negative to the team. Like it hasn't been helping. And I looked at his stats real quick, and the funny thing, I'm going to bring up true shooting again, but his true shooting percentage for this 2020 season, only at 6 games though, is 49%, which is really terrible for any player because usually on average you want a player to go high 50s, like low 60s on an average true shooting, compared to his like 2020 year, which was 57%, which is like pretty good because he also has other guys taking shots for him. But that's pretty good. I would like a 57%, but he's 49. That means his regular field goal percentage is not as good. His 3-point percentage has been lacking. I mean, free throws are pretty easy, so I can't count that. But I think mainly his 3-point shot has been lacking, and his main field goal has been lacking. Yeah, so I mean, like, how have you guys been seeing Kemba? Like, James, what have you seen from Kemba this year from his 6-game slate?
I mean, like for me, I'm debating now on whether his injury really isn't fully recovered. I mean, because like if we're looking at this season, like you said, with his true shooting being way under than it was the year before, like I'm considering that there's something wrong with Kemba that he's not telling the media, and that he is just because I don't personally believe that he's just playing a bad season. Like Kemba's a really good player, and we've seen him be able to play at a high level on the Celtics previously. So I don't understand the slump that he's in. Then again, I'm also thinking, well, there are guys in the league like, for example, Devin Booker, who are not having as good seasons as they have previously. But Kemba's still young. I mean, he's still a really good player. He can still put up those high 20, low 30-point games. I mean, it makes me genuinely question whether there's something possibly wrong with his body at the moment.
I would completely agree with that because he's not the kind of player to go through this bad of a slump, without some sort of like external force harming, doing whatever. Because I mean, the Spurs game, he shot 2 for 7 from 3. In the Lakers game, he shot 0 for 5 from 3. So he's not the type of player to go 2 for 12 over 2 games. He's not that kind of guy. So I agree with James. There's definitely something going on with him. Probably the injury. I would put my money on that.
Yeah, his 3-point percentage has been comparable in the rest of the games also. Like, we haven't really talked about him, but I didn't really notice Kemba's like how his efficiency has been like not that good because I've been focusing on more like, oh, Tatum's back. He's been really contributing. Jaylen Brown's been really popping off this year, like looking like an MVP type year. So like I haven't really saw Kemba until this game. That last second shot really like, all right, I need to see what's up with Kemba. And I just realized looking at his stats, like, oh my God, like, is Kemba okay? Like, I know Peyton Pritchard got injured too. I feel like if Kemba needs some time to recover, we have Jeff Teague as a backup, which has been really good at the beginning of the year when he was injured. So I feel like he could replace him if he needs time to recover to get back to 100% like he was last year. I feel like we need that right now. We can't have our third option being a little lacking. Well, like a 75% Kemba.
Yeah, because I mean, if he takes however much time he needs, right? Let's say he'll take like a couple weeks off, whatever. If he's going to try to fully, if it is the injury, assuming it is the injury, yeah, I mean, you still got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as the first 2 options. Those guys obviously have proven that they can get the job done in most cases. And yeah, Jeff Teague has been a solid option. Obviously, he's not Kemba Walker good, but I mean, still, he definitely is a facilitator enough that he could definitely make an impact with those 2 on the court.
James, you have anything else?
Took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to throw this hypothetical out to you guys. So what if Kemba's not injured? This is actually 100% Kemba. This is how he's playing 100% right now. Is this worth looking to options to trade him, or is there something we need to do with Kemba if this is actually how Kemba is 100% this season?
Hot take. He should be traded. That is a big question. That it could be interesting. I definitely wouldn't try and send him back to Charlotte. For sure. But I mean, I think that he needs to be put on a team to where he doesn't have to feel like he has so much pressure on him, and it might be that on the Celtics, assuming that it isn't the injury and that he is 100% right now. If he feels the pressure, then he needs to go to a team that isn't pressured. And you could name off a bunch of teams that would be low pressure teams for him. Like teams like the Magic or the Raptors. Get him involved in there, or even though I would hate to see it because I'm a godly hated Lakers hater. But he could go to a team like the Lakers. There's just teams that he needs to be put on that is low pressure, and I don't think that Kemba is genuinely used to being in playoff contention and going for the title as often as we've seen in his past on Charlotte. He can't. We've seen that he can't lead a team to the playoffs. We've seen that he is able to put up huge numbers when it's a low risk opportunity. So if they're going to trade him, I would trade him to a team. Probably the first one that came to mind, like I just mentioned, was the Magic. And I feel like that would be probably a good option for him, considering that Markelle Fultz is such an injury prone player.
Yeah, I actually really like the Magic idea. I'll try to answer to not trading him. And honestly, if this is really like how he's gonna play and they're not gonna trade him, this man needs like some mental detax or something. He needs like a spiritual walk or something, like a walkabout. Seriously, because if this is how he's gonna play, if this is him now, if this is what we're going to see for the rest of the season, which I don't think it is, but if it is, then I don't see any other option than trade.
Yeah. Well, for at least what I think is that I feel like since Kemba's a point guard, he needs to go to a place that there's not point guard heavy. So I would disagree with James on like trading him to the Raptors or the Magic, because they got Markelle Fultz, they got Fred VanVleet, and Kyle Lowry have been really good. And my team, I was thinking actually that came off the head was the Rockets. You think about it, that they really only have Victor Oladipo. And
they just got John Wall.
Oh, they do have John Wall. Yeah, you're right. Actually, never mind.
No, definitely the Rockets do not need.
The Rockets do not.
Walker.
Yeah, I forgot about John Wall. He's been injured, so yeah, actually, never mind. That came off the top of my head. I just can't
he's been playing well this season.
Maybe he could reunite him with Al Horford and go to the Thunder. Actually, but I don't think they have any trade assets.
That wouldn't be bad.
I don't think they have any trade assets. The
only thing that I will say is that they do have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has been popping off this year, and he's arguably an all-star this year. Could definitely.
I would consider him a shooting guard, and I would put Kemba at the one. But that's how
that's how they did it when Chris Paul was there before he got traded to the Suns. So that could definitely be a good option for him. I would back that for sure.
Yeah, I think how I see it from his past experiences with Charlotte, I think he needs to either be the first option or the second option, like a really good player. Like he's not going to lead your team to a championship, but I feel like he can be that either really good second option or not so good first option. Like I'm not saying he's a trash player from not being a very good first option, but like first options are designated players who are mentally and physically able to lead you to a certain point. So like Tatum, I feel like he's mentally and physically able to lead you like to the Eastern Conference Championship, but I don't think I've ever seen him to the finals kind of deal. So I think Kemba can be a really good supporting player. I don't know about the third option like he is on the Celtics, because I feel like a lot of people are vying for shots. A lot of people are really good, so that kind of overshadows him. Like even like Peyton Pritchard and Jeff Teague, who's also in his point guard room, are also really really good and really serviceable people that can like play in his place for a second option if they really needed to, like a second point guard.
And to your point, Kemba is like we've seen on Charlotte, he's a ball dominant player, and you already have two ball dominant players in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown now stepping up to a ball dominant player. So I think that the lack of ball handling that Kemba is doing for the Celtics is slightly hurting him, but it shouldn't be hurting him to the extent that it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Quick thing before you go, Reed. What was it? Yeah, actually, before you go, I gotta formulate my thoughts about this take. If you have anything to add about Kemba.
Did you say me go?
Yeah,
you cut out for me for a second. I pretty much agree with what James said. Whatever's happening with him right now, it shouldn't be hurting him as much as it is. And since it is hurting him as much as it is, I think he needs time to like just sit back, because for the game is just not a stat line that a starting point guard should be putting up.
I agree.
All right. Yeah. Actually, never mind. I kind of forgot what I was going to say about Kemba, but yeah, honestly, I was just trying to think of it was something about the trade, something about trading him, but I couldn't really think of what it was. But yeah, I mean, like, I think I'm on the side of just keeping him for now because it's only 6 games. So like, I'm not going to like, if this was
the Kings would be a good option. I just thought of that.
If De'Aaron Fox is not there, but
well, I mean,
what about
again,
De'Aaron Fox?
An injury player.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned
true,
the Magic because Markelle Fultz is like can barely play 30 games throughout the season.
True, seriously.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to keep him for now, at least for my opinion. And then we'll see, like, if it's like 30 games in, like his 30 games without an injury, then he's still like this. I would be on James train, like just trade him. Find options before the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think, both of us are on the trade bandwagon only if he continues to play this poorly.
Yeah. So I'm going to end it off with I thought of this right now, actually, like do like a 1 minute take of like a current thing in the NBA. So my 1 minute take for you guys right now, James, you can go first. Is Utah legit being number 1 in the Western right now?
That's a good question.
I think that it is an impeccable, like it's a great like standard for where they're at, and they're doing really good. Will they keep it up? No. They're going to end up being like a 4 or 5, in my opinion, because, the way that they're playing, Gobert just got dogged by Jokic last night. And it's shown that he's been able to be a weak player at certain times. Donovan Mitchell's having a great season, and I think that Shaq totally pissed him off.
Mm-hmm. Seriously.
Yeah, but I think that Donovan Mitchell's doing great, and he's clearly the best player on the Jazz. Mike Conley needs to step up more if they want to continue the run that they're going at. But yeah, Rudy Gobert's having a good season, but I think that he'll keep it up? No, because I think that there are a lot better centers in the league, in my opinion. That's just my hot take.
Mm-hmm. I think that the Jazz, I agree with James. I don't think they're going to be one seed this season. I don't think they can keep that up, but they definitely are vying for a top spot, no doubt. They have players that can obviously, play basketball, put the ball in the hoop. And Rudy Gobert is obviously he's been playing very well, and Jokic dogged him because Jokic is not a traditional center. Jokic is a rim protector, and Jokic doesn't really. I mean, he does get to the rim a lot, but he's a threat from so many other places on the court. So I think that once Utah faces more teams that can really shoot the basketball, they're going to have a lot harder time staying in the top spot.
Yeah, I mean, my take on that is just I think they're, if I had to put it, like they're a 4 seed at the highest. Because you have to look at the standings. You see, both LA teams, and then you have I think the Nuggets are legit. So I feel like those are the 3 teams I would put ahead of them. Yeah, and I think Gobert. I think they should not have paid him that much money. His skill set is not
seriously
tailor made for the modern NBA center. So I feel like if this was like the early 2000s, like early 2010s, then yes, Gobert's a great center. I would pay him that much money. But for right now, it doesn't seem very good. I mean, thank God Donovan's popping off at Jingles.
Yeah, Headband Joe.
Joe Ingles. He's a little meme, and he's actually my name / meme as in our fantasy league. So yeah, Jingles. I'll always preach for him. But yeah, he's been decently well too. Like that's the 3 names that you really hear out of there. Because Mike Conley's also really good. Like people don't talk about him. He's really underrated. But Mike Conley is also really good, and I feel like they have a decent squad. I don't think they're a top level team, but I think they can make
doing well.
Yeah, they can make some noise in the West. That's all I'm gonna say. They can make noise in the West. Same with the Celtics in the East. Because now with the Nets actually figuring it out, I feel like I don't feel as confident. But I feel
if we figure it out, we did lose last night.
You guys are second in the East.
I know, but dude, our defense is so bad. There's no shot that we're gonna make a deep playoff run if we don't fix our defense.
TLC shouldn't have missed that layup.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that one, but that'll be my Nets hot take.
Yeah, definitely when the Nets play the Celtics again, we'll have another hot take on the Nets. But yeah, that's Utah. I'm not going to hate on them, but I think they can make some noise. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I want to see them do well.
yeah.
I want to see them do well for sure. But I mean, like you said, Moko, in this modern NBA, you can't be paying Gobert that much, and also you can't really make a team around a center anymore, or a center that is like Gobert. You can do that with a center like Jokic who can pass and shoot, but Gobert's a rim protector. You can't really build a team around that.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah. So I mean that's it for everything on the slate. I don't know. I haven't really looked at the next games, but I know the Suns are actually playing them tomorrow. We're recording this on Monday, and I know James is a big Suns fan, so we'll be talking about that game next week. And yeah, that's it for the Celtics side. I will see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.